One of the greatest discoveries of Roman remains in the capital was unearthed in the 1950s right in the heart of the city of London. The Temple of Mithras became an instant tourist attraction, with tens of thousands of people queuing for hours at a time for a glimpse back at our city's ancient past. Well, now, more than 60 years on, archaeologists are planning to reconstruct the temple on its original site, as architectural historian Dan Cruikshank discovered.
At first glance, this huge construction site on Walbrook, near Cannon Street Station, looks much like any other big development springing up in London. But in 1954, something miraculous emerged from below London clay and wartime rubble over there, just behind these hoardings. They were the remains of a temple built when, where I'm standing now, would have been the heart of Roman Londinium.
The remains of a Roman temple have been uncovered near the Mansion House in the City of London.
And newsreel cameras were on hand to capture the huge excitement the find generated.
The temple includes a medieval structure, possibly a well or a chimney. A Roman well is nearby, but one of the greatest finds is a platform where an altar is thought to have stood.
In bomb-pitted post-war London, with rationing only just ended, the find was a sensation. Day after day it made front-page news, and people queued around the block to marvel at the discovery.
London was very damaged still. This part of the city would have been, full of bomb sites. And I think people were fascinated that something good was coming out of all this destruction. This was a bomb site, and yet here was something from much earlier period of London's history.
Now, 60 years on, archaeologists have gathered some of those visitors together again to share their memories and any fresh evidence of what the site looked like. Diana van Ruyen was 14 years old and her father took her along to see the dig in progress.
Here was something which, apart from the fact that it was revealed by the bombing of the building, had nothing to do with the war. It was like getting on with normal life. Here is a piece of Roman London, part of our heritage. It was almost like a symbol of hope. Life is going to go on. There are still good things to come.
The temple was dedicated to Mithras, whose cult had spread west from Persia. As a god of honour, of justice, and said to be unconquerable, he was popular with Roman legionaries who presumably brought him to Britain. These legionaries worshipped Mithras by torchlight in dark and cavernous interiors, and in the early days Mithras was said to be a rival to Christianity.
This head of the god was found on the site.
And one of the dig's most famous discoveries was this spectacular bust of Mithras himself.
Both neck and head are in good repair, though parts of the god's headdress are in danger of crumbling.
And today, the bust of Mithras is safely on display here in the Museum of London, along with other classical treasures found at the time. The finding of the head of Mithras was dramatic, wasn't it?
This is the frisson, this is the excitement that archaeologists get. This turns up on the last day. We're going to have no more opportunity to investigate the site, but this is the crescendo, the final point. And then
epic stuff. It's Tutankhamun-like, isn't it? You extend your life and then you find the pot of gold.
And our predecessor museum very speedily displays it, the Guildhall Museum, and it's a fabulous story.
The temple is certain to
But the fate of the temple itself has been a very different story, because shortly after its discovery, it found itself in the way of progress.
The whole area is soon to be built over. A short reprieve has given archaeologists a few more days, but soon a block of offices will cover this glimpse of London's ancient past.
The government refused to pay for the architectural changes required to preserve the remains in situ. So stone by stone the temple was dismantled and reconstructed on the roof of an underground car park nearby.
It's not how we would do it today, but I think everyone had enough of the archaeologists at the time, and they thought, well, let's just get our builders to build the Temple of Mithras, to put it back So unfortunately that's what happened, and that meant that rather than use sympathetic lime mortars, they used very, very hard cement, and they put crazy paving in for the flooring, so it wasn't a sympathetic reconstruction.
And then 2 years ago, the remains of the temple found themselves in the way again. The global media company Bloomberg wanted to build its UK headquarters on the site. The footprint of the new building incorporates the car park area as well. So once more, the Temple of Mithras had to move. Which is what brings me to this industrial estate in Bedfordshire. This is where the remains of the Temple of Mithras are now stored in pieces in this vast warehouse. Here are the remains on pallets in front of me here and over there. It's like a vast jigsaw waiting to be reassembled. Oh, wonderful bricks. Roman bricks. There you go. These would have been big tar-like bricks. There's the face, sensational. Bands of brickwork in between the stone to tie the structure together. Typical Roman construction, late Roman. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Not every day does one get one's hand on a bit of Roman London brickwork. And now there's an opportunity to turn the clock back. Bloomberg has been granted permission to build its London HQ on the condition that it pays for these remains to be returned to their original Roman location, 7 metres below ground level.
We're going to try and build a new reconstruction using the right lime mortars, correct Roman building materials, using all of the material that was salvaged that's genuinely Roman.
This reconstruction is going to be quite a challenge, isn't it?
It's going to be very difficult. We've got very good records from the excavation in 1954, lots of photographs, but it's still quite a difficult thing, and we haven't got all the materials, so we're trying to work out how to do it all.
The Bloomberg development hasn't just provided an opportunity to return the Temple of Mithras to where it originally stood. It's also allowed archaeologists to uncover a veritable goldmine of Roman buildings and artefacts, in what has been the largest dig of its kind in Britain in recent times. How much has been found?
About 3 tons of Roman pottery.
Tons?
Over 10,000 small finds, that's the kind of little artefacts, personal objects. About 2 tons of animal bone that can tell us about the diet.
That's because the temple had been built on a very well-occupied, very industrious part of Roman London, presumed, on the riverbank.
And the fantastic thing is that the river and the water from the river has preserved the archaeology incredibly well.
Quite when we'll be able to enjoy the Temple of Mithras back where it belongs remains somewhat uncertain. But these bricks, along with the stones around me, should be making their way back home very soon, with the reassembled temple open to the public in about 2017. And I, for one, can't wait to see it put back together again.
Dan Cruikshank there, and we look forward to bringing you further updates on the reconstruction of the Temple of Mithras in future programmes.